Dear viewers, apologizing for missing last week. I already announced it 2 weeks ago, and in the meantime, two things happened. One, Path of Exile launched another league, a game I'm very invested in, a game I simply adore, and I wanted to play it. And I did. The launch was smooth, no drama, no one got banned. I'll give you my full take at the end of the video. Another thing that happened is only the biggest game show of the year, Gamescom. I haven't watched much from that just yet. I'm currently mostly oblivious to everything that happened over there, so forgive me if I miss an obvious title everyone is covering. That being said, I do want to make it up to you. Here are 2 weeks of coverage into one episode, starting with reveals and announcements. Here's something I never thought I would say again, the Lords of the Fallen. The original game, also called Lords of the Fallen without the, wasn't a particularly good or successful game. It's not entirely clear to me why they thought a reboot was a good idea, but hey, the trailer looks pretty good. It's all CGI of course, but the vibe I'm getting from just watching this is that this game is going to be a Souls-like. And I'm wondering if another fantasy gothic style Souls-like is what people want right now, because it hasn't been that long ago since we got that exact game from the masters themselves. I'm skeptical but also hopeful that this game is gonna do better than its predecessor. Now in that regard I'm much more interested in Lies of P, which is also a Souls-like, but this has a distinct, unique world, the Belle Epoque era of France, combined with elements that walked straight out of BioShock. The aesthetic is clean and shiny like the polished robots our protagonist Pinocchio is fighting. It's clinking metal instead of gory pools of blood. This game is weird, but in the best possible way. This got me excited since I watched the first trailer, and this one is even more hype. I'm hoping this is gonna be a banger. Another game I'm excited for because I played the demo and it was very decent is the Last Oricru, a game I would describe as basically gothic in almost every way, even graphics to some extent. But it's a great game, it incentivizes exploration like those good old ARPGs. There's loot and secrets everywhere, good voice acting and an actual decent story with real choices. Games like these are so more rewarding than stuff like Far Cry where you're essentially just chasing map markers. The Last Oricru doesn't even have a map. It is just you, the combat, wandering the world, talking to NPCs and completing quests, while also discovering the link between this weird world you got dropped in and how to make it back home, with spaceship and all. Release date is October 13th. Ixion, the space sim management game that has these gorgeous trailers, quirky humor and apparently decent gameplay according to those who played the demo, has a release date. November 16th, you can manage, build, explore and govern your own space station, making it as optimal of a vessel as humanly possible. Although I'm not sure you're even human, judging from the trailers. You might be more of an AI or something, which is fine I guess. Indie ARPG Striving for Light posted more details on their upcoming mapping system, borrowing a fair bit from PoE, but also adding plenty of original stuff. This game is essentially a roguelite ARPG with a lot of procedural generation, and the new map system, called Pathfinder, lets you pick and choose maps and roll their modifiers, given you have the currency to do so. Rerolling uses a shard of chaos, and adding a modifier uses a shard of augmentation, But hey, I prefer borrowing gameplay elements from games that have proven their worth, and Striving for Light has enough unique features to stand out. The art style for one, the fact it is a roguelite and a procedurally generated skill tree which you can adjust to some extent. It is a good mix of player agency and randomness, a balance that is hard to find. Indie game Salt 2 gets an early access release date, September 20th. This procedurally generated pirate game developed and published by Lava Boots Studios may at first glance seem like an indie version of Sea of Thieves. Looks can be deceiving though, as you're being attacked by dead skeletons slashing away at you, because Salt 2 doesn't have PvP or multiplayer. It is a single player game focused on PvE content, mainly just exploring islands. There's crafting, skill systems, character progression and ship decoration, and this promises to be a rather relaxed experience with soothing music and a unique art style. I've played the previous game of these developers called Wild West and the Wizards, which has a very similar design philosophy, but it was a western instead of a pirate game. game. Very enjoyable, I thought, and it's making me excited for the sequel to the original Salt, released back in 2018. Early access will last at least a year. It has all core features I just described, and I'm sure this will be a very playable and enjoyable game from the start, for a reasonable price. Definitely something to point your compass towards, I would say. Another favorite early access game of mine, Tavern Master, serves up a new update soon. In this solo dev indie title where you're building a hopefully successful tavern with multiple stores, there will soon be a weather system. There will be 6 weather conditions: sunny, partly cloudy, cloudy, light rain, heavy rain and thunderstorm. Depending on the weather, you'll get a bonus or penalty to the number of customers that you get daily. That's fairly realistic, I guess. I wouldn't go out to a bar drinking when there's a thunderstorm going on, most likely. Instead, I would just go for some takeout food maybe, and that's great because the second big new thing is the introduction of takeout. You can now build a counter where guests can come and order food, which will then be prepared and packed for them to carry somewhere else to eat. This is set in medieval times and I can't imagine this was a thing in 1400, but hey, it's a fun idea and I dig it. Deliver Us Mars got delayed. The game will now release February 2nd, 2023. This is the sequel to Deliver Us the Moon. It's an atmospheric sci-fi adventure, offering an immersive astronaut experience. Here's what the devs say about this one. Deliver Us Mars is an atmospheric sci-fi adventure, taking you on a suspense-fueled, high-stakes mission to recover the Ark colony ships stolen by the mysterious Outward. I've been following this for a while, and although I've never played the original, I was intrigued by the visual style and graphics. Clearly an Unreal Engine game, super smooth, there's a cute drone as well, I mean, what more do you really want? The recently released early access game, Camp Canyonwood, released a roadmap. There are some interesting features in there like new wetlands, snow and desert biomes, camper requests, weather phenomena, cooking and decorating updates, more events and controller support. Broken Pieces, a psychological thriller taking place in a French coastal village somehow outside the flow of time, now has a release date. September 9th. You can take this game for a spin and solve a bunch of puzzles, do some seemingly awkward combat and immerse yourself in this adventure. This is a very typical game with an emphasis on puzzles and mystery, but if that is for you, this may be a decent title. If any of these games look interesting, be sure to wishlist them. It helps the devs out a lot. Similarly, you can subscribe to this channel, which helps me out a lot. We're on our way to 300 subs and growing pretty fast, so I appreciate it. It's teaser time, a mix of small updates or teasers I think are worth showing, but I just haven't watched too many of that, so I don't have much, honestly. Proceeding with the patch Plaza, bringing an overview of patch news. A game I covered in the first episode of this channel, Skabma Snowfall, received an update. I didn't think the devs would still be working on this game where you play as a Sami healer, going from reindeer herding to discovering your own roots. A very special game, very well appreciated by those who play it, but also flying under the radar. This update adds a bit of hand-holding so it's easier to complete the game and find the way, as well as more puzzles. More than anything though, I just wanted to shout out this title once more. Then releases, looking back at what released the last 2 weeks. Way of the Hunter, a hunting sim costing €40, was received with 71% on Steam. Also, ACG found a game-breaking sound bug destroying his save, changing his rating to wait for now. Steam negative reviews point out fixed field of view, no keybinds possible, bad optimization and just the game being not finished. Catizens, the RimWorld and Sims-inspired cat management game, did very well. The early access launch so far has been met with an 88% positive rating on Steam. It's not cat at all. Slaycation Paradise released, combining a top-down ARPG in a camping setting, heroes on flip-flops, weird aliens and even weirder weapons with a tower defense game. And it works. I played the demo, gave a first impression and enjoyed it quite a bit. The full product doesn't disappoint either, with an 84% positive rating. Thymesia, a Souls-like, yes ladies and gents, I said it, released. And it did surprisingly well, at least I was surprised, because it looked fine, sure, but making a game like this is very difficult. Steam loves it though, rating it a solid 86% with almost 2,000 reviews. Meta and OpenCritic were less impressed, scoring it a 70. I was even more surprised by Sir Whoopass, because I didn't have high hopes for that one anymore, but apparently I was wrong. People think it's funny, which is the main selling point of this thing, and reviews went well. Steam scored it an 89%, that's pretty good. Last week there was only really one game I was interested in, called Midnight Fight Express, a beat-em-up isometric game made by just one developer, Jacob Zwinel. Almost 400 people reviewed it, which means it sold pretty well, and the rating was a solid 84%, very positive. Great to see all the games in the last 2 weeks were decent apart from that Hunter game. And maybe another one, but we'll get to that. Let's look at what is releasing this week. The Aliens Fireteam Elite Pathogen DLC releases, continue the AFE story with new environments, maps, cosmetics and a campaign that puts the crew of the Endeavour into their most perilous mission yet. Release date is August 30th. Also August 30th you can invade the Earth and people's private parts and destroy all humans to Reprobed. Yes, I just said that because that's exactly the kind of humor you can expect from this game. It's a pretty good game though. I played the original like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. Something a bit more serious comes from the pen of Sam Barlow, creator of games such as Her Story, where you need to piece together what happened to her from a bunch of recordings. Immortality, his latest feature, seems to be very similar in terms of setup, and these games are truly something special if you have the patience for it. Release date is August 30th. We'll finish with something cute called Tinykin. This is basically Pikmin, if you're old enough to remember that cuteness on the Nintendo, but now with a bit of a modern twist. This looks cool, not gonna lie. This week's sort of free games because I'm Dutch and cheap. Epic offers some free stuff for Destiny 2, plus a card crawler game called Ring of Pain. Uncle Phil from Game Pass offers of course a shitload of titles, starting with the relaxing coffee time where you listen to people's stories and serve them a hot and decorated cup of coffee in this pixel art indie game. Then there are some classics like Wolfenstein 3D and Return to Castle Wolfenstein, plus 2 obscure Elder Scrolls games I've never heard of, called The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard and an Elder Scrolls Legend Battlespire. Very curious. Quake 4 is now on Game Pass. Death Stranding is now on Game Pass, the game that more and more people actually start to appreciate as time goes by, proving once again the genius of Hideo Kojima. Even Donkey had to admit the game grew on him the second time he played it. Midnight Fight Express, I already covered that, but it is also on Game Pass. There's Opus, Echo of Starsong, Full Bloom Edition, which is a visual novel with overhauled voice acting or even completely new voice acting. And last and probably also least, Exapunks, another weird puzzle game from the same creators as that Game Pass game I covered last time, Shenzhen IO. Time for some personal updates. What have I been up to? Well, Path of Exile, ladies and gents. It's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Not for me so much, but for the community. The game launch was pretty bad, arch nemesis monsters committed mass genocide on the community, loot was heavily nerfed without mentioning it, the player base is decimated since League launch, plenty of content creators quit, Q-Dog actually joined again, which is amazing, a few of them got banned, and it ain't looking great. The first few days I didn't like the League too much. As per usual, the League mechanic wasn't rewarding enough, the content was extremely difficult, and I didn't see too many reasons to keep playing. But then some patches came in, we got some buffs, and now I'm a week in, basically full build. I'm playing the Path of Math Eye of Winter Miner, potentially his last build ever, and it is some very solid stuff. I'm juicing T16s like I normally do, and I don't ultimately see that many differences in terms of loot with previous leagues. 7% loot, like Chris mentioned, seems kind of on point. I think Chris had the correct number there. However, the way towards getting to endgame was incredibly painful and incredibly not so fun. And this wasn't too easy to begin with. You already need to spend a lot of time and money and have a decent number of game knowledge to make it to endgame with a solid build. And this league, that was even more difficult. Talking a little bit about trajectories, while Path of Exile is still by far the best ARPG on the market, without anything coming even close if you want to play more than 50 hours of it, the direction the game is headed in the last year or so isn't particularly promising. 3.15 was a disaster in terms of nerfs, and now a year later it's another low point. The devs seem to forget from time to time what Path of Exile is and what it isn't. and what they want it to be, a game with deliberate combat, that is not what PoE is. And that is not what people love about it. PoE isn't about the combat, it is about the build, the complexity, the juice, the feeling of being rewarded once you are up and running, a few days into the league. Once you've crafted your stuff, you're playing your endgame maps and you're rewarded for your efforts by getting tons of loot. That is why we love this game. Once we've overcome all the hurdles the game throws at us, we are in a state of sort of this flow, this endgame juiced map flow, and this is what I can do for weeks honestly. But with loot nerfed, crafting gutted, zooming significantly delayed, and just a bunch of annoying rares in your map that serve no purpose whatsoever, there is a lot that is now missing in PoE. And that is a shame. I'm still having fun though. After I've recorded and edited this and uploaded this, I will be playing again, but I'm having less fun than last league. The league mechanic in itself is nice, I'm playing trade so I can pimp my character quite a bit, and I do love the sound of enemies shattering in front of me because of the cold skills and crits. That just never gets old. And I'll probably play for a while more. I just wish that, this was not the direction the game was headed in, because I'm not sure where this is going to end. And that's it. If you have any questions or remarks, put them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you want more like this, consider liking the video or even subscribing. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you next week. Bye bye.